have the pleasure to introduce our first keynote speaker. So 10 years in industry with Citibank, before, if you like, the nebulous of the idea of metric stream was born. Our first plenary speaker probably needs little introduction to the vast majority of the room, but I'll do so anyway. Advising on numerous tech startups in Silicon Valley, and from our perspective, really the champion, indeed the torchbearer for connectedness within GRC for the last 15 years. It is my great pleasure to introduce our first keynote speaker to the stage, our co-CEO and co-founder, Gaurav Kapoor.
Thank you. As John said, it's quite a pleasure once again to be at the summit physically. And thank you to all of you for making the commitment, the time, and being here with us today. There's a lot to cover. I'm also very delighted that we've been able to, this is the 10th year of the summit, as John mentioned. And for 3 years, we maintained continuity through the digital summit that we did over the last 3 years. But nothing like having 200 plus people in a room and feeling the power of connection. So thank you once again for all of you who've taken the time and the effort to come from all over. We are quite, in an unprecedented time of history. If you go back to history, you'll see that we've typically been hit with 1 or 2 shocks at maximum at the same time. We are in sequence now, over the last couple of years, hit by three major shocks. The COVID, clearly, the massive global trade conflicts that are happening, and the war. Add to that the derivative issues like rapid inflation and recession that we are seeing at scale right now, deglobalization or nationalization, whatever one wants to call it, and supply chain disruption. These are pretty large and connected. Add to these 3 more. Rapid digitization that has happened over the last few years, and which is causing a new frontier of risks, whether it is metaverse, whether it is cryptos, whether it is AI causing ethical issues, all of that stuff, it's all coming together. And then you have the disruption of technology and business models in every industry you can think of, pretty much. And finally, I'd say that there's a massive change in human behavior as well that we are seeing, whether it's consumers on one side or it's employees. All the conversations on essentially the big resignations, the quiet quitting, etc. There's a sea change in terms of how human behavior has changed, even in the employee base, over the last couple of years. And underlying all of this, really, is the constant and increasingly looming risk of environment and climate. And we're seeing some of the repercussions of that. Looks pretty gloomy, right? Not really. We've seen this in the past, not at this scale, but we really have to come together and ensure that we are evolving into a new world, a new way of managing, looking at risk, compliance, governance, and other aspects. Our daily lives as risk professionals have really changed. Understanding the interdependency of so many risks has become a lot more challenging. Regulations are really coming out of the woodworks globally, and sometimes they're not even in sync with each other. They conflict with each other, and any large organization is dealing with that at a global scale. And finally, like I said, the human and financial capital management is becoming more and more challenging. So if you look at all of this coming together, it's really a new world. Now, we are all overcome with anxiety, with uncertainty, and sometimes fear. But from these challenges are going to emerge the opportunities. And we know that there's a world of hope and opportunity for businesses and risk professionals, as we've seen in the past when crises has happened. Let's also keep in mind that some of the best global businesses have been created at the time of crisis. John talked a little bit about it. Even metric stream, our biggest years were 2008-9 onwards, when the financial crisis had happened, and we got the teams together and created, and the rest is history for the last 10 to 12 years. But let's take some really good examples. The first one, look at Lego, what they've done. Lego had to really reimagine their business a few years ago when their primary retail chain went out of business, Toys R Us, and early buying had stopped during the pandemic. But Legos not only diversified its supply chain, both with traditional and online channels, but they also created a brand new subscription model that they'd never done before, to entice consumers with freemium products, etc. And then, the rest is, again, they've done extremely well. They also were one of the first ones to actually embrace the metaverse. And today, through their Fortnite product, I don't know how many of you are still young to play with Legos, but I'm sure you have kids. But what has happened with Fortnite is they've taken the metaverse characters and icons, and now they're transforming that, those buses into real products that they're now selling as Legos. What a fantastic transformation at the time of extreme crisis. Let's take the example of a big iconic company, Apple. Apple turned privacy into a strategic advantage. In the initial years of privacy, Apple actually got a lot of flack from their shareholders and their investors that they're not doing enough to personalize and make money off advertising revenue. But Apple stood steadfast on their philosophy on privacy. And guess what? They have not just gained a huge branding advantage around privacy, where many others have faltered, but also gained a competitive advantage where you're seeing some of the large e-commerce companies, including Meta and others, falter in terms of how they're managing their advertising dollars, if you will. So again, they stood by their philosophy, turned a crisis of privacy into an opportunity, and really transformed it. And let's take the example of Pfizer and actually other pharma companies as well. The extreme COVID crisis allowed pharma companies, and for the first time regulators, to come together to compress the drug development cycles from years to months. While the balance between innovation and trust has to be always maintained in healthcare, but really and truly, it reset the entire industry's norms. So whether it's drugs or it's med devices or it is vaccines, the whole compression of the life cycle of these developments have really created a very significant change in terms of, and it happened when we had a human health and life crisis. So these are all some great examples of when businesses transform and they actually come to bear, and the transformation is very apparent to see as we go. So here's what I'm going to urge. It's time to really reimagine GRC, and that's what me, our chairman Gunjan, my co-CEO Prasad, all of us are extremely excited. All of our partners, we're extremely excited about the reimagination that we want this journey to be as we go along. So we have to relook at how governance, risk, and compliance has been managed and how it is being managed. Some of you who are working very closely with us, we're already on a journey to some degree. But today, the world of risk is still siloed, unattached, and sometimes extremely pacey for us not to change the way we have been managing risk. So let's just imagine. Imagine you're an airline and just think about how many risks you're facing today from different angles: geopolitical changes, nationalization, oil and gas prices, expanded physical and cyber risks, terrorism threats at different places. It's a whole spate of risks. And now, imagine that you're a risk officer at an airline and you could get a real-time view of everything, from your ground transportation to passenger safety, to your airport security, your flight safety, cyber security, your food quality, customer quality, and your no-fly lists all together on one screen. I'm using the word screen, in one place, through streaming information coming in, and make decisions on your business in real time. That's the future of GRC, and that's what actually one of our customers in this audience has embarked on and started the journey. Now, imagine you're a United Nations humanitarian organization that provides assistance through all the food shortages, and they're faced with new challenges. Again, there's nationalism challenges, there's supply chain challenges, inequality, United Nations funding challenges that we are seeing, and you're this organization. And you imagine you're a risk manager at this organization that has been typically doing what we call a top-down risk assessment. There are a couple of hundred risk managers in this organization that supplies food to 100 million plus people globally, 100 million on a regular basis. Now imagine, as this risk officer, you're able to not just get the top-down risk assessment, but are able to tap into these 100 million people who, through SMS and text in the villages in Africa, in India, in Vietnam, wherever there's being served food, they can actually instantly provide feedback on the food quality, on delays, on shortages, on food poisoning, instantly, okay, without going through the 7 intermediary chain that is in between their food supply. Imagine you could get this. What would happen? You could get an instant pattern recognition on what is happening. Okay, this is a word cloud, but you could get really an instant pattern recognition and start to act on it much faster than today, when it might take 6-7 months for something to percolate up as a risk. That's the power of interconnection and interconnected GRC. One other example, you're a bank, and there are lots of banks here, small, large, fintechs, insurance companies. You're a large bank. We can all imagine the kind of issues or the kind of risks we're facing right now. You're navigating a trade crisis. There's massive global fluctuations in interest rates and currencies. There's, again, nationalization happening where payment networks are getting disrupted. There's fast emerging fintech companies that are disrupting the business model. And there's a continuous attack on your data. Now imagine you're in the risk, as a risk compliance audit executive at a global bank, you could, on a single dashboard, leverage data coming in from operational risk on third parties, cyber, operational resiliency, and add to that data coming in from your transactions, your trading, your customer data, your procurement systems, all of that coming together through a continuous stream of information contextualized. That's the future of GRC, because we don't have time to wait and make decisions. We have to get more strategic about how we manage risk, and we have to get agile about how we manage risk. So it's both resiliency, but also agility. So how do we really bring all this together? At MetricStream, we first is, as a team here, whether it's our partners, our customers, the regulators, there are rating agencies, there are standard bodies all in this room, our friends, our analyst friends who provide guidance to us on a regular basis, we all have to come together and really make sure that what we imagine is impossible, make it possible. It's a tough task, but we have to make it possible. We've got to let go of our anxiety and fears and really get to where the real fun starts in getting all this information and managing risk better. And so we at MetricStream, over the last year, we have really, to reimagine the journey, we've embarked on a very bold mission centered around a product strategy that provides you a more connected GRC experience. So there are some core tenets of this, and you'll hear more from Prasad and Raghu and Joy, our product teams, as we go along. But if you look at it, really first thing is about being cognitive. Cognitive is working smarter, not harder, leveraging the cognitive powers of advanced technology. It includes capabilities around AI-centric workflows, quantification, that can help organizations leverage this data and enable more predictive and prescriptive capabilities. Not doing post-facto assurance as we've been doing in GRC for ages. That can help us understand what the emerging risks could be, what the real cost of compliance could be, or non-compliance could be, or violations, and also be able to quantify the monetary impact of all these risks coming together. These 2 and 2 don't add up to 4. We all know that 2 plus 2 adds up to 10 in risk, but the ability to do this, is the next bastion, if you will. The second thing, distinctively is what we call continuous. With the massive amount of regulatory changes, market conditions, and the amount of data all of us are dealing with, the classic annual, quarterly, ad hoc assessments are not going to work. We all know that. So we need real-time continuous assessments and testing of controls, if you will, looking at transactional data and bringing it together, leveraging the full population of data, not just samples, from various data sources internally and externally, and really hyper-automate the process of assessments. That's where we all have to head to. Now, many of you in this room are already halfway through this journey, but we really have to bring this together, and that's where we're innovating on. And the last but not the least, essentially, the cloud. Cloud is no more about hosting in the cloud or cloud-native architecture. As businesses demand more performance and faster turnarounds, we're going through quite a bit of change. Our whole emphasis, and again, our teams are going to talk about this, on low-code, no-code GRC platforms are the future. We don't have, and we can't depend on an army of highly skilled programmers. Organizations have to create GRC changes as they go along, and it has to be done in a way that can scale easily. It can be done fast, more agile, and it allows for easy maintenance, easy development and easy upgrades, if you will. The more we can get this community to come together on market standards, the better. Okay, so one is market standards, and the other is making sure that on the cloud, you're able to manage this with pace and agility. Again, we'll be talking more about this during the next day or two. As we go to this, so really bringing all this together, yes, we have a platform, yes, we have applications, yes, we have products, but the key thing is just getting it all together so that the future is really about connected GRC. Now, many of you have been on this journey with us for a long time, but some of us have just started. Just a quick 30-second snapshot on MetricStream. We are a global market leader in connected GRC, software as a service, 1 million plus users on the cloud, 14 plus years recognized as a leader, 1,200 plus employees, and a vast ecosystem of partners. And we are delivering essentially 3 product lines: business GRC that has the underlying risk management, compliance, operational resilience, audit, third-party management. We have cyber as a core category, and then ESG, which we launched, it's called the ESGRC, which we launched about 18 months ago. And all of us, for all of us, it's top of mind as well. And one thing that, you may or may not be aware, we are a late-stage private company. We, have one of the most blue-chip set of investors globally, Goldman Sachs, 3 of the largest private equity providers in the US, and the government of Singapore, EDBI. They're all investors, so we have stayed independent. We continue to grow. And our mantra here is, over the next 3 years, continue to innovate, but also make sure we're financially and fiscally prudent, growing fiscally, balanced growth and profitability. Just wanted to give you a sense of MetricStream overall. Finally, I would say that we are laser focused on customer experience. As we've gone through the journey over the last 15 plus years, there have been different phases of innovation in the company. We've learned, we've made our mistakes, but for us, there are 3 primary things here. Number 1, value-driven customer experience. Delivery, support, adoption. Adoption is key. And to make sure our customers are getting value from their investments here. We're going to keep engaging with you. We've created a customer success team over the last couple of years that is, solely focused on making sure that our customers are driving value. Second thing is exceptional product experience. We are learning fast. We are incorporating a lot of product features, but the critical thing is to ensure that the user experience is simplified, it's more automated, it's more predictive, as we talked about. And finally, it's not just about the products, it's about your experience with us. So we want to be continuing to power the GRC journey through our customer community, through our partners. There's a lot of them here, and thank you. And also working closely with standard bodies and regulators to ensure that we are able to, create market standards so it becomes the social fatigue of managing compliance goes lower. We can do once and apply to many, as we say. So the next couple of days, one of the most powerful tools that we all have in our arsenal is to make sure and to gain control, more control out of this really out of control world that we are living in, is sitting right in this room. The assets are right here. There are people, there are customer stories, there are processes that you learn, there's technology that you learn about. So the next 2 days, hopefully will help you pivot from a posture of anxiety to a little more optimism as we all collectively hear our stories and also give us feedback on how we can make your whole journey better and partner with you on that. Collectively, just to give you a flavor, this room represents professionals from 21 countries. 21 countries. It's a European-centered summit, but we have people from 21 countries, including the US, Canada, UK, Sweden, Finland, Ireland, Denmark, thank you all, Italy, Portugal, Latvia, and even coming in from Malaysia, Saudi Arabia, and Singapore. So we have a very good aggregation of people with global perspective. We've got people coming in from different industries, 14 different industries. We've got large banks in the room, including, and I'm sorry if I missed some, but including Standard Chartered, Barclays, Pictet, UBS, JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs. We've got energy companies. We've got other financial services companies like Chubb, Vanguard, Nordea, Revolut, M&G. We've got transportation companies like Denata, Emirates, Airbus, Toyota, Volvo. Only reason I'm stating this is please get together, participate. We've got standards and rating agencies like the BSI, Fitch, London Stock Exchange, energy and utility companies like Shell, Petronas, Wessex Water, and many others who are here, just to name a few. So the final thing I'll call out is that really we'll talk about products. John mentioned about our panels. We'll talk about thought leadership, all of that stuff. We'll also talk about some of the features that are coming out in our teams. But I'll tell you that the biggest thing you can take away from the next two days is the relationships and the people who are here, and learn from them and contribute to them. In the room today, for example, just to name a few, I've got Gavin from Verizon, who has worked with us closely. He's now with Meta. He used to be with Verizon. And he's worked with us to create the next level of risk quantification, for example. We've got Joe Martinez here sitting on that table, who is a CISO at Aon and is really he has a vision on how to combine the whole information security model into the enterprise risk model. We've got Sarah and Jane from UBS who've come in, and they have been like our founding customers with us for 15 years, going through that journey. So please meet with them and see what they're doing here. We've got Steve and Sandeep from Barclays here, who've been on the journey with us for the 7-8+ years. We've got Gurji from Shell, who started the journey with literally a small financial controls application, and today they have been able to integrate 7 different use cases into a single platform. So it's a challenging journey, but talk to him as an example. We've got Phil from Danske, who used to be at UBS. He's working on Danske's kind of pre-packaged deployment across 7 different areas. Jacob from Nordea is doing the same thing. We've got Margaret and Ajay right here, sitting here at Standard Chartered, who have been on this journey of adoption. And I believe, even you may not know Ajay and Margaret, that we were told by somebody at Standard Chartered, we are now the second most adopted solution within Standard Chartered after their HR system. So it's been rolled out to the entire employee base. That's the size of the journey that our sponsors like Margaret and Ajay have been able to do at Standard Chartered. And then Simon, if you're here from M&G, he was one of the first people who said that I'm going to take 8 executives in my organization and make sure they stay on the pre-packaged journey of GRC. And kudos to you for your leadership. But the reason, again, I'm raising all this is that all these people are right here. Please interact, please talk to each other in panels, informally, and let's go on this journey together. Finally, I'm going to also acknowledge our own team here. We have our entire, or a big portion of our leadership team here. Prasad, my co-CEO, you can raise your hand. Our executive chairman, Gunjan Sinha. We've got Mike Stramby, our chief financial officer. He's right there at the back watching the money being spent here. We've got Michael Johnson, who leads our global sales and partners. He's counting the dollars in this room on the other side. We've kept the expense side and the revenue side in 2 different corners of the room. We've got Rahul Maheshwari, who leads our customer success and services globally. He's in the room based in London. We've got Raghu, who leads our product management. Raghu's right there. Please meet with him. Joy, who leads our entire R&D. He's sitting right there. Amy, who leads our corporate communication. Amy. We've got Manu, who leads our global marketing and is the chair of this summit, along with Anya, who's the lead person on the summit. We've got, I can go on, but we've got Jonathan Quayle, who was right here leading our European practice. Marco, who's one of our senior executives from the customer success team. Anish Taylor, who many of you have met and worked with very closely. We are all here. We are all here. And what I would urge you again is that experience the power of connections you make here. And those connections hopefully will become a catalyst, to regain your focus, rebuilding a set of optimism, and take us all in the journey. I challenge you, take yourself out over the next 2 days from your day-to-day and spend time with these people. That probably is going to be the biggest outcome of the next 2 days. Thank you.